Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. As you can see, two big smiles on our faces. Deka, second time this season. You get to say the famous words. Take it away, mate.
We won you now. Get in.
Get in. It's been a long time coming, mate. It really has.
It has.
I think if we're looking back over the previous games, like we do on a Monday night on the Always Smiling Faces podcast, and the opportunities have been there for us to take control of a game and win a game, but just it's never fell our way. Today's a different story, mate. We'll get straight into it. We were helped massively in that game. There's no denying that. Fulham go down a man in the first 10 minutes, is it? It's not long into the game, mate. And that sets the game going forward. That gives Newcastle the opportunity to dictate the passage of play, how we want to play that game. So it lands completely in our hands. Let's get to the red card straight away. We'll talk about that, mate, because the stream which I was watching, the way the commentator was talking is if that the Fulham's players' studs up challenge weren't high enough. So he's saying that if it had been higher on the leg, then yes, it's a red card. But he's saying because it was so low down on his ankle, then he said it should be a yellow card. Is he watching a completely different thing to me? Because that's a red card all day long.
Well, we're going to disagree here, I think, mate.
Oh, really?
I didn't have the commentary on, if I'm being honest. But not at that point, I didn't. And when I seen it again, I think slow motion made it look a hell of a lot worse. To be honest, and my honest first reaction was, if it was higher up, I think it's a red card. It's the first thing I thought, and I said that to the lad I was watching it with, that it is on his foot. It is a heavy challenge. I'm certainly not saying it's not a heavy challenge, but it's not like it's not a leg breaker. It's not going to. For example, the Arsenal game prior to that was shin. That was coming down on his shin, almost halfway up the calf, if you know what I mean, in the middle of his shin bone. Whereas to me, that one on Longstaff was on his foot. So I had a feeling that maybe the yellow would stand. I honestly had a feeling. Now,
is that even after the referee gets called to the monitor?
Oh no. Once that happened, obviously, when you, but it looked horrendous in slow motion, which I think everything does. When you slow it down, I think it can look worse. And it was a bad challenge, but personally, I think we're a little bit lucky it was a red, but that's just my opinion. I appreciate everyone probably watch this will go, what on earth are you talking about? But as I say, I disagree with the commentator that if it was higher up the leg, then it's a dangerous challenge. Whereas I think he clattered into his foot, and I think you see them quite often, to be honest. But
yeah, you do see them quite a bit, mate. But like I said, I'm the other side of the fence. I think you're getting a red card for that all day long. I don't think it really matters where your foot ends up. It's how late the challenge is, because it is pretty late. The ball's already gone. You're just too slow, and it's a bit reckless, like, mate. So for me, being on the top of the foot, it's right under the shin, really, isn't it? Where you catch it.
Yeah, it's kind of like tongue of your boot. Does that make sense? Like around that area. And to be fair, I thought Longstaff did very well, like nip in there first, get in there first, be on the front foot and win that challenge, because he knew he was coming. Longstaff was fully aware that, I have to get this ball first, but knowing going in the ball first, he's going to clatter you. So you also got to credit Longstaff for being brave enough to get in there,
So like I said, mate, it's eighth minute he gets sent off. It's Chalobah that gets sent off, and like I said, we just take the bull by the horns at that point, by a scruff of the neck, and we control every single part of that game up until, I would say, the last 5-10 minutes, if that, mate. But since when anyhow made the changes later on in the game, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. We saw a change in the starting lineup, mate. Callum Wilson comes back in because really we needed him with Isak's injury, and we're sort of Joe in on the bench, something which hasn't really been mentioned. So Joe goes down the bench. Apparently he hasn't trained all this week. Slight niggle there. He's fit enough to make the bench, so it obviously can't be a huge concern for the club. And we see Dan Burn come back in at left back. And Dan Burn had a great game, mate. He didn't have to do much, but when called upon, he seems like Mr. Reliable at the moment, Dan Burn.
He's absolutely amazing. I love him. I really do. And I know there's a few people are sometimes surprised Botman's not playing, but I don't think that's a bad thing on Botman. It's just how good Burn is. You know, he's so steady, man. But also he's got a lot of experience in this league as well, which I think helps.
Yeah.
And he, to be honest, other than maybe one moment in his time here, he's never put a foot wrong. And that's playing at centre half.
Are you referring to that
back.
Spurs game? Are you?
Maybe 2 then, because it was Chelsea I was thinking of actually in the last minute. But no, actually, I absolutely love him. I think I was shocked at the team news, I have to admit. When I seen the team sheet, I was like, oh, I think more so the Joe Linton one, I think, was a shock. But hearing that it's more because he didn't train, I feel better about, because obviously if it was maybe a choice or a form thing in his opinion, then that would be a bit, I wouldn't like that. But if it's to do with an injury or I'm not training, then so be it. That has to happen.
Mirovic started for Fulham as well, mate, and he was toss of a coin apparently if he was going to play or not. And I was quite worried about that going into the game. But with the sending off, it just completely rolls their attacking force out of the game. Then Mirovic has to go down the tunnel early on with a recurring injury, mate. So it doesn't look good for him at the moment. But lucky for us, mate, that's the way it happened. So working in our favour, the red card and injury to Mirovic, because despite being 10 men, Fulham did have opportunities in that game towards the end. So if Mirovic was on the field, could have been a different thing, mate. But we'll go straight to the goal, because I don't want to spend too much on this, because obviously we do our Monday night podcast with the rest of the boys. So Callum Wilson, mate, he's back in the team, scores again. When Isak is fit, can both of those be in that team, in that starting 11 at the same time?
I kind of think they have to be, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because what's quite funny here is that we criticised Almiron heavily on last week's performance against Bournemouth, or the week before, whenever it was. He comes back today and has an absolute whirly. Let's be fair, whirly today. But I still feel when everybody's fit, if he has to play them two together somehow. I'm not sure how he would do that, but you cannot drop a £60 million man that you've bought, and you cannot drop Wilson when he's the one that gets one most goals. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does moving forward. I think I mentioned on the podcast last week it was that I felt that Isak might play on the inside right, on the right-hand side, but then that means you've got no Almiron. Now, Almiron would feel very hard done by, based on the performance he gave this week, to be dropped. So it's going to be really interesting when he comes back. But on the point of Wilson, he's been out for a while, but he leads the line. He come back in the day as if he was never away. Like, he just leads the line so well, you know.
I'm always shocked by his speed, mate. When he's running after the ball, I'm unbelievably surprised at how fast he can get to the ball. And it's every single match day I'm seeing this when I see him, because I think he's getting faster.
Yeah, well, I remember the last game of Arsenal, going back to last season. He was really terrorising them down the wings. He was chasing down balls. And even my dad referenced to me, he actually said, I didn't think he was that fast, but he's quite quick, isn't he? And I was like, he can shift like when he wants to. Obviously, I'm holding my breath, mind you, when he is sprinting. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried in case someone's going to pull. But he's absolutely tremendous. And if you could keep him fully fit, like, he's invaluable, isn't he? He's invaluable, like how good he is.
Yeah, so a few people on social media there saying that he could have possibly left Joe Willock's shot at goal. But strikers don't leave those chances, mate. If he can nick it. And I thought it was going to hit the post, and it could have went anywhere.
I did.
If it hits the post.
I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't think it was going in, actually. I thought it was either going to hit the post or come out, or even maybe just go wide. My only worry was he might be offside. That was my only first thought. Was he offside? But once you've seen the replay, mind you, though, they took a hell of a long time on that one, didn't they? To save that goal.
There's two incidents, mate, they were looking at. Yeah. So they looked at the offside, and there was another one which I think was a foul in the build-up to the goal. Because Fulham's bench weren't happy. I can't remember who was. It might have actually been Wilson in the centre, the field that pushed somebody over, wrestling for the ball, mate. I might be wrong, it might not have been Wilson, but that's what the second thing was, I'm led to believe. So they're looking at the build-up to the goal with the foul, and then the offside, onside decision. Yep. He was miles onside, to be fair. They were looking at Mickey, wasn't it? To see if he was onside.
That's right. Yeah, they were. Yeah, and once it's in the replay, I immediately knew, oh, it's all right. He's onside. And I think just to touch on something here quickly. Obviously, of course, when them get a man sent off, it's amazing. Of course, it is brilliant. But slightly in the back of my mind, I was worried about the Bournemouth game in terms of them just sitting back. Can we break them down? That was my initial worry. But what I loved about the was scored so quickly. It felt so fast after them going down to 10 men. We didn't really give them an opportunity to reset and regroup.
It was only a few minutes, mate. I think it was only 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. And that's key, because if them right out the 5-10 minutes after getting the man set, they can then get back into the right shape. The communication can be done from the bench, but we didn't let them do that. Bang, they were 1-0 down, and that was huge. That first goal was huge.
We absolutely dominated, and we keep going to refer back to the fact that you're against 10 men, but like you said, that can go one or two ways. We've been down to 10 men before, me, and we've played better with 10 men at some point, because you do tend to sit back and try and contain and not concede. Fulham just didn't look interested. The man got sent off, then it just looked like at that point they gave up and thought game over straight away. And like we said, Wilson scores just 3-4 minutes after the sending off. Then from then it was just Newcastle attack after attack, and we had 19 shots at goal, mate. Miggy's goal. Let's get on to that, mate. I was sat watching that, and I didn't celebrate that Miggy first goal because my jaw just hit the deck.
Yeah,
I was like, what's he just done? Like, my brain couldn't figure it out.
I did. I literally just like eyes the whole lot. I was wide open. Like, it was. Listen, it wasn't as good as this, but it was shades of Cissy for me. It was like, against Chelsea, it was like one of them that is so spectacular. From the height that the ball came from as well, because the spat of them is not great. Let's be fair. Yeah. It's more like I know. I think it was Bruno was trying to obviously play it through to him, which he does. But my God, it comes from some height. The audacity to try that. It's. I mean, you could probably put him there another 100 times, and it ain't going to go in. But who cares, right? In that moment there, he did the business, and it was an absolutely incredible goal. One of the best, and it'll be. I honestly think it could be up there for goal of the season.
100%. That's when goal of the month has to. It's going to take something special to beat that.
Yes, it is.
It is. I know it's the first day of the month, mate, 1st of October, but it's going to take something very, very special to beat that for October's goal of the month, mate. I agree. But we spoke about this on last week's podcast, how one-footed he is. Strikes like that, most players would probably try and hit it on the right. He shifts his body and outside of his left, and like I think that's what's baffled everybody, even the defender, because you would probably just absolutely smash that with your right. Yeah, but just outside of the boot, just straight over the keeper, lobs the keeper, and like I said, mate, I was in awe of that goal. My jaw hit the deck. It really did.
Yeah, it was incredible. It honestly was. To be fair, we've scored some screamers this season, to be fair to us as a team. Shea scored a screamer, Trippier's had a screamer. This is an absolute. Saints was a screamer against Wolves. And then this is an absolute screamer as well. But I love it when I used to find before we were scared to shoot, but wouldn't have a shot. And I love people taking chances. Obviously, sometimes you can be on the negative side. I mean, last week against Bournemouth, or the week before, we were shooting from all angles and we were getting frustrated. But when they go in, of course, it's extra special. And that there, his confidence will be through the roof. You could tell after that it was the way that he was playing, but it was a
that smile did not leave his face, mate. He was buzzing all game.
He was. Yeah, he was. Amazing. Unbelievable.
Then I think it's 10 minutes after that. We're up there again, mate, and Sean Longstaff gets his first goal in 14 months. I think the commentator said it was. So it's been a long time since Longstaff got on the score sheet, mate. But it's just bodies in front of goal attempting something. And once again, the team and the build-up to the likes of these goals and these chances, it was great, mate. And Bruno had a very quiet game, I would say. And he's normally a player that you're looking at opening the game up a bit. But I think with the sending off, it just gave everybody else that chance to get involved, and we weren't solely relying on Bruno. But once again, it's another player on the score sheet which means we're not just relying on the likes of Callum Wilson to get us these goals.
Yeah, 100%. I think Bruno was just making everything. It was perfect, really, in a way the way the game played out, because you're still missing a few big players. We then ended up having to rely on because the way the game went. But Bruno coming back from injury, he didn't have to break a sweat. He was just, nobody was pressing him at all because they were so deep, and he was just pinging passes, starting off moves. So easy for him and for Wilson as well, for that matter. And the Longstaff goal, I've said this for so long about midfielders. I love seeing a midfielder getting into the box. You know what I mean? Maybe players going on, but they're in there. Credit to Botman for a hell of a header. And the keeper does a great save.
Great save that, mate. It really is.
Yeah. Unfortunate for him, great for us, that obviously it felt a Longstaff and he took it away. So to be 3-0 up going into half time, I mean, it was just dreamland. Because I know they had 10 men, and I've spoken with a few people here, and I've said, like, the game would have been different. But so many times we've been against 10 men and we're going in that 0-0 at half time, thinking, hopefully we'll break them down the second half. But the game was dead and buried within inside 20 minutes in that sense. So that was fantastic.
Longstaff's chance, mate. I'm furious if I'm a Fulham fan watching that, because their full back line, anybody that's in the box, when the keeper saves the header, Undertaker coming for you, mate, again.
Sure.
Dong. But yeah, when the keeper saves, tips it on to the post, everybody gives up. They just stop. Yeah. Then Longstaff just runs past two defenders, gets in front of them. Thank you very much. Smash that back of the net. I'm furious if I'm a Fulham fan watching that, because if your players aren't tracking back, that's absolutely shocking behaviour. That, mean, hence why I said at the start, they gave up.
They really did. There was shades of we've been there at St James's before, under the back end of the Pardew era and things like that, or where they just really are down in tools. They're going through the motions, but I would have been disgusted if I was a Fulham fan, to be fair, because I know they went down to 10 men, but my God, they felt as if they had really had something hard done by them, and they really seemed to give up. But at the end of the day, we took advantage of that, so.
Yeah. So like I said, mate, we'll go at half-time, 3-0 up, absolute dreamland, and you're thinking, can't go wrong, can't possibly go wrong. I thought, at half-time, yes, it's going to be a completely different game second half, because they made a couple of changes just before the half-time. Kenny came on, there's a couple of others, and I think Mbabu went off, didn't he?
He did. He had a torrid time. He was really strong.
So he went off as well. So it just seemed like they were just damage limitation at this point, because Newcastle, like I said, almost 20 shots on at goal, mate. But Miggy gets his second, and when he gets his second, mate, I honestly thought that one might go on, and it's gonna be an absolute schooling for Fulham. I thought we might have bagged a handful more, but it wasn't the case, mate. But Miggy's second, and like you said, we had a bit of a go at Miggy last week, but this is the Miggy Almiron, which would love to see, somebody that's constant, and he was all over the field, mate. He wasn't just staying on that right-hand side. He was everywhere, completely everywhere. Yeah. And when Miggy's playing like that, he's a fantastic player. He really is. But then you see him last week, and you're so frustrated because you know how he can play. And credit to him, mate, after that poor performance, which we saw last week, he comes in and man of the match easily this week.
Oh, without any doubt. I think as well, I think for us, I think when we do match previews on a Monday, it's sometimes hard for us, I think, because we sound like we are criticising someone, but we're just talking about them 90 minutes. We're not necessarily meaning that we think he's terrible all the time. It's just we're talking about the game we've just witnessed. So sometimes it might sound like we're going heavy on a player, but it's maybe for decisions and things they've done in that game. Whereas likewise tomorrow, I'm sure I will all be wax lyrical about how amazing he was. And he was amazing. He really was. The third goal was, again, defensively for them, dreadful. I mean, it was as if I'd give up. But I love a winger that he was playing that comes in, follows the ball in, and he's at the back post. He's hit the back post. The ball comes across, bang, goal. And I agree. I thought this could be tasty. We might get 5, 6, 7 here if we keep going. But we took our foot off the gas, and unfortunately, we took it off a bit too much, because I thought we were quite poor towards the last 5. I'm not complaining about it, but the last 5 or 10 were a bit rubby, and unfortunately them scored. But
I think it was the amount of substitutes which were made. Almost the full back line went off. If not, did they not all go off? Trippier actually went off as well. So the full back line, Lewis came on. Target came on.
That's right.
Lascelles came on, and was there somebody else? Or did Botman stay on?
Botman stayed on. Botman stayed on, yeah. So
obviously Lascelles then it just seemed a bit shaky, didn't it, at times when that happened, because it had Fulham more pressing, and they got in a couple of times. Obviously, they scored the goal just before full time, the 88th minute. And what's your thoughts on Pope for that goal, mate? Do you think he should have done a lot better, or do you think it just all happened so quick? He was far too late. Because it's Lewis's man, isn't it? Lewis is standing there, just he's gone.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of Lascelles gives the guy all the time in the world to cross the ball. First of all, and as I agree though at the back post, I don't think there's much Pope can do about it. To be honest, I think we have to stop the cross a lot better, and that's where I think Lascelles just backed off, and he was backed off in a position where if you're going to back off someone or give the person time, you've got to be very, very close onto them, like literally on his toes, and just stand them up. But he was standing them up yards away from him, yards away, and I just cut inside, crossed one in. And he's free as a bird at the back post. Lewis didn't know where he was at the back post. It was a soft goal, but we still have that tendency, in games where, and not just today, but what game was it? We just played the Bournemouth game. We've just played
Bournemouth
it, right?
Game, last game, yeah.
We were by far the better team. We're batting them for 20, 30 minutes, whatever. But as soon as an opposition just has 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of a little bit of pressure, they probably get a goal. And I felt it happened again today, where they did nothing for 85 minutes, and for a few minutes in the game, they had a bit of the ball, a little bit of a danger, and they get a goal. And I'm like, we'll have to try and cut that. Has to be cut out. And I'm sure, for all I'm not really bothered about it, but I guarantee you Howe will be. I bet he'll be like, lads, Howe, like fucking hell.
Yeah,
again,
it's a clean sheet.
I know it doesn't count in the grand scheme of things. It is. Pope won't be happy. You know what I mean? Pope will be furious.
But I think in a normal situation,
it doesn't dampen the day.
A normal situation, we're 4-0 up, mate, and Eddie Howe's gonna make some changes. Of course he is, just to save some legs. And obviously Wilson went off early on as well, which he wasn't happy about. But you could see Eddie Howe on the sidelines to Wilson explaining why he came off. We know why he's came off, because what's the point risking him even further? He's got his goal. Newcastle are controlling the game. Get off. It's fine, right? It is. Yeah. But the defense one was a strange one, because in a normal game, if it's 1-0 in Newcastle, if it's a draw, even if we're 2 goals up, you probably wouldn't see those changes at the back.
100%. Yeah.
It was just for the sake of it, to be fair. That's just as to put some fresh legs on there. But we're lost how solid we were at the back.
It must be shit for them that come on 83 minutes. A lot of them came on and were conceded 4 minutes later.
Yeah.
Them will feel it as well. I'll be like, shit, we've only been on the field 5 minutes and we've conceded. It's not the best, you know what I mean? But I agree, though, just about the top end of the field there, going back to what I mentioned before, of like, you managed to get Bruno through an hour there, totally unscathed. Didn't really have to break a sweat. You bring him off. Anderson gets some minutes, which I think it's important for Anderson to get more time.
He
Wilson
looked good,
gets
mate. He looked good when he came on.
He does. He's a little bit raw. He's very raw. No doubt about it. He gets in certain areas and he's a little bit raw, but for me, his willingness to get on the ball and make things happen. That's what I love about any player that can do that. And I really feel he can. He gets the ball in dangerous areas. He always tries to make something happen. I'm a massive fan of his. And I think
when he first came on, mate, center of the field, and there's a tight spot, and he gets through it. It's the tiniest little touches that he's taken, and he just walks through 2-3 players. And in those compact and tight spaces, he looks like the ball is glued to his foot.
He's a player. Yeah, he's a real player. He's a real player. Technical ability is very, very good. And I think under Howe, he can only get better. I really do. Whereas if we're previous manager, which I'm not going to mention, we had a player like him, he's probably just going to stifle out, maybe go out on loan. But I just think that Howe would have already. Yeah, he would have been. Yeah. So I really think we've got a player there. I really do. And I think it's for me, it's an interesting one. We're so interested in buying players. And when January comes, we'll spend loads of money. It'll be absolutely amazing money for someone like that to come through and really, really be a strong player for it. That we've already got on the books. It'll be great. That
he has to be honest, mate. He has to at least get a. He's also on the bench every single game. That's what I believe. I don't think we should be leaving him out of the squad. I think he should be there with the first team, in and around the first team constantly, and always have a place on the bench. If not starting lineup, whatever injuries we'll have at the time, he needs to be in there for the future.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
But yeah, mate. Anything else which you want to touch on before we wrap this one up?
Almiron's hat trick, or would have been. I just want to add that was another beautiful finish. It was offside clearly, and that's fine. And again, it was Anderson that played him through. Anderson away. The pass was maybe slightly late, but he's still seen the run. And what a beautiful finish! And he did that goal in pre-season. Every single pre-season game, it felt like where he just opened his body up and bends it in the top corner. It was a lovely finish. That
Palace goal, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was very similar. Yeah. So again, his confidence is clearly flying.
There's so many chances as well, mate, where the ball was just getting absolutely smashed across the 6-yard box, and players were just a couple of inches away from it. And Miggy had about 4 where he was just a little bit. The ball was just a bit too far ahead of a bit too fast. And I think Wilson had a couple of those as well. And you're thinking, I was desperate for him to get 3, mate. I was desperate from the bag of hat, right? Because after that performance, he more than deserved it.
100%, mate. Yeah, 100%. And you know that results moved up to 7th now. We're up to 7th in the table, which looks lovely, looks healthy. It's a massive win. It really is a huge win.
We needed it, mate. I couldn't have coped with another draw. I really couldn't have, and we needed that, especially a win away from home. Then it's Brentford next week at St James's Park. So obviously we'll go into that full of confidence, bagging 4 goals, mate. So fingers crossed we can start a run of victories, mate, because we need some in the bag. I know it's still early on the season. We've struggled to close games out at times and take those opportunities. Completely different story a day. 3 players on the score sheet as well, mate. That's exactly what you want to see. Thanks everybody for watching. If you do like this video and the rest of the content which we do on the channel, you can become a subscriber. Like the video as well helps other Newcastle fans see this video on their timelines as well. And we shall see you on Monday night. More stuff coming on the channel as well throughout the week. You've got the Fantasy Premier League. You've got extra time. You've got all your match previews as always. Beyond the Lines came back last week as well, where we do get an opposition fan on to preview the upcoming game. So plenty more to come from our guys this season. Watch what you're doing. Go and enjoy that win. And me and Deka will see you on Monday. See you later.
Won you now.